everyone. Welcome to Achieving Success with Olivia Akin. I am your host, Olivia Akin. Each week, we will discuss the roadmap of achieving your personal and professional success. We give you real-life stories on growing personally and professionally to achieve your life and career goals with the help of some top-notch guests. Today, we are speaking with musician Yslas. Ray is a renowned percussionist celebrated for his contributions to modern music. Recently collaborating with the iconic rock band Chicago, he has left a distinguished mark on the music industry. Ray's impressive career includes memorable tours with platinum recording artists such as David Sanborn, Paul Stanley, Jennifer Lopez, Christina Aguilera, and Patti LaBelle, among so many others. His talent has graced numerous network appearances along esteemed musicians like Stevie Nicks, Prince, as well as the prestigious events like the Emmys and the Saturday Night Live. With a unique approach, Ray infuses each percussive arrangement with an orchestral sensibility, treating every song as a narrative to be told through rhythm and sound. Hello, Ray. It's fantastic having you on the show today.
Hi, Olivia. It's great to see you, and thanks for the invite. This is going to be fun.
I am so excited to dive into your life journey and really how you approach music and everything you do. But to start off the show, can you tell me what success means and looks like to Ray Yslas?
Well, success. Well, it's interesting. There's people have asked me, wow, they'll say statements like, you've made it. And I was like, I made what? I don't know. I just look at it like making a living, and I can have fun at doing what I love to do, and I can enjoy waking up and going to sleep. So I maybe that's what success is. This is interesting because I never really thought about it until you just asked. So I was like, whoa, okay, what are we going to talk about? How am I going to say this? But it's like everyday happiness, right? I mean, but you have to develop that in what you want to do. Now, for me, it was music. Music is my happiness, is my my everything. It's like people say, do you have a hobby? I said, yeah. What is it? Music. What do you do? Listen and play. And I think it's fun. Everything about it is amazing to me. How a person can create a sound through that instrument, through their favorite instrument or many other instruments. And as a kid, I developed, well, I realized that's what I wanted to do. So I think success it's internal, like it's not everybody, your success is not everybody else's success. It's what makes you just take that deep breath and say, cool, all right, good. I did well today, or I did good this year. Or, I look at the health of my children and I think that's successful. That's part of the success, even though they don't think I'm cool anymore, but that's that's fine. I've come to accept that. But
And I love how you bring up the aspect of happiness. And even in that answer, you mentioned the fact that outside individuals, not yourself, will come to you and go, you're successful, you made it, you've done all these things. It isn't like kind of
Mhm.
that glorious mantra because they look at your accolades and not
Yeah.
necessarily the hard work and the hours and the dedication that goes into getting on certain stages and performing like individuals with individuals like Prince or at the Emmys or in these
Yeah.
different areas. And I
Hmm.
think it's really important that you highlighted to you that just brings you joy. It wasn't something that
Hmm.
you go, okay, this is the mark and this will make me successful. And that's part of the reason too. I always ask this question because so
Yeah.
many individuals will look at someone from the outside and go, okay, they've done these things, now they've become successful. And I'm like, why don't we ask what that looks like? And a lot of times it
Yeah.
does get people hooked up in the beginning. They're like, oh, wait, I haven't thought
Yeah.
about this.
Yeah. And it's I think I never want to think, oh, I made it. Because I seriously don't think that. I don't think like that. I think all right, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. You know, I grew up with the music of Chicago, right? I mean, a lot of people did. And for me to be part of the band was like it was supposed to happen to me, you know, in a sense. Back when, I don't know when I manifested that into what my musical elements, you know, and I like like I said, like I'm supposed to be doing that. And if I'm not supposed to be doing that, then maybe I'm supposed to be doing something else musically. Back in the day when I was younger, I would like, we let it get to our head. We like, oh God, I didn't get that gig. I wish that was, but then you realize, no, it wasn't meant to happen. You're not supposed to be doing that. It's just part of life and other things. That simple statement, one door closes, the other one opens, another one opens. That's it. And with, yeah, with the element of success, I, I think I'm on the path. I think I'm on the right path. That's
I
it.
I
Which,
think you're on the path as well. I think you're driving that
and
car very well.
yeah,
Um,
one of the, it's funny, you had mentioned the Emmys and Stevie Nicks. I remember the week prior to the Emmys. Now I was performing in the house band, so we were doing all the commercial breaks, everything with the show, right? If an artist performed, we back them up. So it was a lot of work. So that Wednesday before the Emmys, I got a call from the manager, Stevie Nicks' manager, and he said, "Hey man, I need you to do this is a last minute event with Stevie." I said, "Great, when is it?" And he said, "Sunday night." And I was like, "Oh, dude, I can't because I'm doing the Emmys." And he said, "Wait a minute, what time does the Emmys end?" And I said, "It's live from 5 to 8 p.m., West Coast time." And he goes, "Yeah, we're playing the Emmy party." And he goes, "So you can come right after, like walk across the street and do the show, the Emmy party." And I went, "Oh," I said, "Yeah. What time is the show? What time does Stevie go on?" And he goes, 9 o'clock. I said, "Yeah, I'll be done at 8. That makes sense. Okay, I can do it. Yeah, let's do it." All right, great. So when I was finishing with the Emmys and rushing over to do the party with Stevie Nicks, I was walking. I thought to myself, now this is cool. This is really cool. I'm in a very cool spot where I just finished doing the Emmys and I'm about to hit the stage of Stevie Nicks. Like, okay, that was a little moment of this is success. And I was like, all right, don't let it get to your head. Get to work. Like that's the thing too. Don't let anything get to your head. That's it. Don't get all patting yourself on the back. And so I just rushed over there and I did the job. I did both jobs. It was a long, exhausting day. And I remember driving home thinking that was really effing cool today, and never, I mean, I, to experience two back-to-back major events and high publicity on top of that was I still think about that once in a while. And you just reminded me of that. Oh yeah, that day.
mhm.
Probably slept for 2 days after that though.
Well, sometimes we need to bounce back after our adrenaline's rushing and we've so much going on. There's times my days will be packed for like 4 days straight, and then
I'm sure.
I'm like, okay, it's time. I just got rest. I got to sleep. Like my body's telling me
Yeah.
it's time to regroup. But for you, you mentioned something that is really important as well. Before I dive into my next question, is the aspect of not letting your own ego get in your way sometimes, and
True.
being humble and going, okay, I'm working towards this. This is I'm going on, but
Hmm.
not closing doors due to going, okay, do you know who I am? Do you know like
Yeah, that
what I've done? So for
never ever do that.
yeah.
It's
So
like,
for you,
yeah.
as you have certain experiences and you perform with certain artists and have those moments, like
Mhm.
the Emmy night that you just described, how do you kind of, and I don't want to necessarily say it this way, but check yourself going, okay, am I getting my ego in check, or am I getting too excited about what's going on? And how do you handle those situations and make sure that you're always staying humble?
Well, I mean, in my field and in the music business, there's always somebody behind you who's waiting for a position to open up, right? So it's like you can be replaced. It's not a problem. It's not like you are not the only one in existence, in that field or in that instrument, And so I always keep that in my mind too. I keep that like there's somebody younger, like waiting, somebody who's like kicking ass on drums who wants to be ready to jump into that position. And it's not like it doesn't keep me up at night, but it's just a reminder that we are replaceable. That's all, But with that knowledge, you keep yourself in the business. You keep yourself alert. You keep yourself active. You keep yourself healthy. Like if I'm not doing a 2-3 mile walk every day, then I'm in the gym. It's either one or the other. And it just like, because come on, we're in the music industry. It's an entertainment business. You're in the entertainment business.
Mhm.
We have to compete. We got to compete. But the competition is what keeps your energy and keeps you youth, keeps you going, keeps you alert, keeps you excited about what you do. And that is also part of the happiness, part of the success. And it's not that I think to myself like, oh, I got to walk. No, I look outside and it's a beautiful day. I'm going to extend that walk today. I go out, put my headphones on, listen to a podcast like Achieving Success. Hello, that's what you got to do. You got to keep yourself going and have that and just moving forward. But I think letting it get to your head, you've come across people like that. I have, and you just nod your head and you don't make a comment. You just like acknowledge it, and you try to remind yourself, okay, I'm got to stay humble. You got to stay humble. And we do this, or we play music. I play music because people want to hear it. They want to break away for 2 hours of their life, and they want to experience a summer concert and have a drink and just dance, and that's my responsibility, is to make you smile, make you happy. And at least for those 2 hours, or if you're listening to music in your car, it's like that's our responsibility to have you guys, the listener, appreciate it. So, and that's part of it too. It's a huge picture,
Mhm.
as you know, a huge big picture that we have to be a part of.
And
Um,
it's something too, and I love how you brought up that health aspect, because not only is exercise a way for you to keep your body in check, but probably while you're touring or doing different things, it's a way to
mhm.
mentally stay balanced and
Yes.
as everything's going on. But also for you, the other thing you brought up previously was the aspect of taking opportunities. And I think
Mhm.
sometimes, I've had discussions with individuals where it tends to be they get in their own way because they feel like they're impostering someone. Can this be real? And then
Mhm.
they say no to an opportunity or go, I can't do it because they go, okay, there's other things going on, or they end up making their own closed doors themselves. For you,
Yeah.
how do you handle like that call from Stevie Nicks' team or Jennifer Lopez's team or Patti LaBelle? In those moments, how did you handle conversations, and when do you take a step back, like touring with the band Chicago, and go, okay, I'm going to do this, and even if I have to figure out how, we're going to move forward and work together.
Well, that's meaning, okay, so when you're saying, so when the artist or management, because the artist never calls, it's always the management, they're the ones who call. Um, although I did receive a direct phone call from Paul Stanley from Kiss. Now, okay, now let's talk about that one. All right. So he called. Okay. The crazy thing was that morning, I took my daughter, who was 12, 11 years old at the time. We went to a record store, right? And I was showing her, hey, check it out. These are albums. What? What? What's that? Like hello, like not an MP3. It's vinyl. So and then I pulled out a Kiss album and I said, check this out. This is one of the first albums I bought. And she's looking through it, like, the makeup, Anyway, so we put it back, and an hour later, my phone rings, and it said no caller ID, right? And I never answer those because I think it's like soliciting or whatever. And and I answered it. I don't know why. I picked it up, and and I said, "Hi, can I speak to Ray Yslas?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Hi, this is Paul Stanley, and I'm putting together a band. Your name came up." And I'm like, "Okay, all right." And he said, "Yeah, it's going to be like old school R&B, and it was for his kids' fundraiser at school, right? But that's why I was like, okay, cool." And I'm thinking to myself, Paul Stanley, who's Paul Stanley? And I thought, well, there's only one Paul Stanley. And then I heard the voice more and more, and then I went, holy crap, And then I'm like, okay, be cool, be cool. And he's like, well, yeah, we're doing this. It's going to be a blast. Are you in? I said, yeah, man. And I said, Paul, where are you? And he goes, oh, we're in Brazil right now. Actually, I'm about to hit stage. And he puts the phone like to hear the audience, right? He goes, literally, like, I'm about to hit stage, and I forgot to call you earlier. And I said, okay, that's effing cool, dude. That is so fucking cool. And he goes, all right, so I'm gonna text you right now, so you have my cell phone number. Then when I get back home, we're gonna talk about the project. It's gonna be fun, man. All right, great talking to you. And then I was like, wow. And then I'm thinking to myself, who can I call right now to tell them that Paul just called me? And then I told my daughter, remember that album I showed you? Like, she was with me, right? And she's like, yeah. I said, that guy just called. She goes, okay, all right, cool. Like, for her, it was like, whatever. It was so funny and so cute. But there's moments where okay, these are people. First of all, they're people, right? They're people who are doing the same thing. They're just doing it with millions of dollars. That's all. And you are asked to be a part of it, and that's the thing. I mean, you can't fan out. You can't be, oh my God, we're not there. We don't do that. We you can do it on the way home, which I remember doing that after the rehearsal with Paul, the first one. I was like driving, going, that was Paul F. Stanley, man. I was just rehearsing with Paul Stanley, talking food, talking pizza, talking music, and and it's like that with all these artists. They just want to create. They want to show the best of their music as possible. So when you're in rehearsals with them, you're all there to do the same thing. So it's just being normal, and then fan out, bug out later. Like, there's a couple of artists that I work with as my daughter became a teenager, and my son as well. Then they would be like, "Whoa, you're playing with who on The Voice?" I was like, "Oh yeah." I said, "You know them?" I said, "My God, they have the number one song right now." And it's like, "Oh, okay." Like, I didn't know that because I didn't know. I'm not listening to pop radio. I'm sorry, but it's like, yeah, I let them fan out, you know.
And that's the thing, you brought up a topic that I also get asked sometimes, working formally working in professional sports and working with different individuals at different caliber of levels. When I started professional sports, I was 20 years old, and
Okay,
you're working with people like Michael Strahan. Like, I worked for the New York Giants, so I worked with Odell Beckham, Landon Collins, like
cool.
some of these names that are really iconic individuals within professional sports, especially
Yeah.
football. And I would get home and they would call me, or I'd be at an event and people would see a photo and they're like, wait, you're in that picture? Like, how are you not freaking out? Or, I'm out
Hmm.
at dinner and I'm getting a phone call from Odell Beckham. And I'm like, they're an individual. The
Yeah,
reason they're calling me is because I am going to treat them like the individual
exactly.
and like we're equals. And I've gotten that a lot of the reason someone would work with me, and some of those athletes like joke that the reason they hired me and that they will never leave me, like I will never be able to
Yeah.
get rid of them, is the aspect that I will give it to them straight. I don't care who you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're gonna get my honest feedback. And if you don't like it, then at least you know I'm being raw and honest with you to try to create the best solution. So when you said that, I'm like, yeah, there's definitely been moments where I'm like, oh my God. Like the
Yeah.
first time I went to a
Oh,
movie premiere, I was 20 years old. And I was like, this is so cool. But in real time, I'm like, yeah, we're about to walk the carpet and we're gonna go in and just sit down.
mhm.
And but leaving, you're like, oh my God, that just happened.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And like you said, you give them the truth. And
Mhm.
they don't want yes people around them all the time. They want the truth, and it, being honest and is
Mhm.
good. And but sometimes we got to bite our tongues. We have to just not too honest. And that is, yeah, I mean, that's I've been at, like, in a rehearsal with Stevie Nicks. She asked me because they were auditioning drummers at one point. The first time I met her, I went. I was asked to rehearse the audition. Like, drummers come in and play with them, right? And she came up to me at one point and she said, "This is after third or fourth drummer." She said, "Oh my God, that's like." She goes, "I think I need a rest now." She goes, "What do you think?" And what did you think of the last drummer? And I said, "He was good. He was good." She goes, "No, no, no. What did you think? Come on, tell me." And she's real, she's like, and then I said, you know, "He was good, but I just wasn't feeling it." She goes, "Okay, all right." Then the next drummer came in. And then after he left, she came up to me and she goes, "What did you think?" And I said, "He had you dancing." And I said, "You weren't moving around before. You were actually like feeling it." And then she said, "You're right. I was." And then she goes, "I got to remember that." And that was the drummer who got the gig. And that I realized, well, yeah, I mean, we're having a conversation here. I'm not gonna tell her, I'm not gonna badmouth any of these guys. I knew them all, but there was, like, at the same time, it's like, I give you my solid opinion about it. And she took it and she told me afterwards, she goes, "Thanks for reminding me that I was moving because it was a long day." She goes, "And that's what did it for me, for her." And I was like, wow, I just told you what I thought, but it worked. I mean, all right, cool. You know, so
For you, as you've gone throughout your career and played with different artists, are there certain situations, and can you give us an example? You don't have to name individuals if you don't want to,
mhm.
that was a moment that you really looked at a situation or approached music differently and took that with you as you went on to other opportunities.
Hmm. There's there's a piano player, a jazz artist, unfortunately no longer with us, Joe Sample, amazing piano player. I remember during the rehearsal, he's extremely particular. He was, or in his approach to individual playing of
Mhm.
his music. And I remember he came up to me and he said, "I like what you're playing. I don't love what you're playing." And he goes, "I need to love what you're playing." And I said, "Okay." This is at the rehearsal. I was like, "Okay. So do I change it? What do I?" And then he walked away and I went, "I don't know what to change." Okay. All right, cool. So then he came back up to me and he said, "I'm starting to love it." And I changed the instrument that I was playing, right? But what I realized is I started now playing a little less than what I was playing, meaning, uh, not overplaying, not overdoing it, not giving. And this music had more air to breathe, probably because he wanted to hear more piano, and And yet I understood what he was saying to me without saying it, because he didn't know. I mean, he was like, he didn't tell me, don't play that bongo drum, play, he was like, I'm not hearing what I love. It was that approach, and let it's your instrument. You better figure it out in the next 5 minutes. I mean, like hard. He's
Mhm.
East Coast, he's like legit. And I was like, okay, cool. All right, I get it. I get it. And see, it's the thing, you got to have thick skin too in this industry. Nobody's telling you something to pick on you to do that. It's about the music. If they just want to have the real song come out, and I was listening and I was like, okay, I get it. I get it. And we were playing. Then he finally said, that's exactly what I need. Now I'm loving it, because I'm loving the way this sounds now. And what I realized, I was just playing a lot less,
Mhm.
and I was cool with doing that, of course, too. We had a huge set list to play, but it was a deep learning experience too, because he's a brilliant musician, in the sense, like, people like that, you want to learn from them, you want to learn. And I have learned with every single artist I've worked with. I have learned, whether it's musical or how to approach business or how to even communicate with people in the industry, and you've done the same thing. We're working with the Giants, you've learned from every single person you worked with. So
Mhm.
it's keeping your mind open, really, because you're there for a reason, but you also have to adapt, and sometimes very quickly too. You have to like adapt 2 seconds ago, 5 minutes ago, or in 2 minutes. You have to be ready to jump. More caffeine, please.
And for you, how do you handle those situations sometimes where you have to really evaluate? Someone comes up to you and it's not clear. They're not clearly communicating and they're just going, it has to change. How do you kind of, because I'm assuming each situation is also different on how you might be combining your musical instruments to make that sound of what do I change? How do I evaluate what needs to be changed to meet that goal? And then I'm going to make a double question out of it. How do you then, in turn, based on the experience you just talked about and experiences you have had, communicate with other band members to say, hey, this is what I need now, or this is what I think we should be doing, and there's something missing?
Well, that the second half of that statement, of that question, it comes into play in recording sessions, not necessarily a live situation, because live we're all together doing what we do, and that's predetermined before the show. I mean, if it's ad lib, that's a different thing. But in a studio setting, you see, I have a studio at home, so artists send me their music to record on. So I'm usually one of the last ones to record, and never the first, like one, two, third person recording. It's always later on in the session. Like right now, I'm working on this artist who happens to be traveling in Greece right now, who woke me up like at 6 a.m. to ask a question: "Are you done with that song?" And I'm like, hello, no, it's 6 a.m. But the recording portion of it, that's when you adapt more. You can add
Mhm.
instruments. I always tend to give a little more, because then they're able to decide if they want to use it or not. And there's once in a while where an artist will say, hey, Kent, I love what you're doing, but can you give me another tambourine track that's played differently on the bridge? And okay, understood. But live, when it comes down to in the rehearsal segment, okay, here's a very funny story. There was an artist I was working with, and God, I want to tell you her name, but I'm not going to. Um, she was from Europe, from Britain, from England. Big pop tune already. Like, we were doing all the TV shows, Letterman, back then, Letterman, Leno, all the shows within a 2 week span. So we're rehearsing. Now she's just sitting at a table watching the band rehearse her song, right? With her manager and the musical director who hired me. And then I see her lean over to the musical director, and then he points at me, and I'm playing, and he goes, okay, and he tells the band to stop. And he's walking towards me, and he goes, hey, she doesn't like what you're playing. Can you play something else? And I went, oh, okay, cool. He goes, all right, cool. So we started at the top of the song, started playing again, and I see again, and then he looks, and then this time he's just shaking his head, and he comes over to me, and he goes, she doesn't like that either. And I went, okay. I said, okay. And he goes, try something else. All right, great. Same thing, third time, right? Musical director comes over to me. Now we're both like trying to hold our laughter, okay? Because he's like, she doesn't like that either. And I went, oh my God, what do I do? And he goes, I don't know. And then the drummer's looking at me like, this is funny. And I was like, this is like a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode, man. This is hilarious. So anyway, so now I'm practically not playing anything. Like little hits here, bing, like it was hilarious. And I look over and I was like, yeah, do we? And then she's like, okay, all right. So needless to say, I did the TV shows and that was it. She didn't want percussion in her band. She probably never understood percussion. She probably never seen it. She's probably wondering, what's that guy doing? Why is he up there? So it was one of those situations where I just knew, okay, it's not me. It's not what, I'm not in the wrong. She just doesn't like the instrumentation. That's it. But it was, honestly, for me, I was laughing as I still am about this. This was years ago. On the way home, I was dying. And I remember all of us were talking about it outside. And that became an ongoing joke with anybody I ran into down the line, like, hey, no, can you try something else? So you just, you roll with the punches. That's it. It's life. So.
Well, and that's a really good point to bring up, that sometimes it isn't what you are doing is wrong. It's just not fitting the way someone else is thinking it should fit. And
Exactly. Yeah.
It can be really hard sometimes when we take that personal, like for you, we'll use the example. That's your craft. You love this. You work tirelessly at it. You've been doing it for years and you're going, okay, well, like it can be hard, but it's also like, okay, you know what? No, this is a job. We're here to perform and regroup that mindset.
Yeah. And if that check's got to come in and clear. So I'm not going to be, giving you my opinion on what you think. No, it's like you called me, and if it doesn't work, or if I give you something different, I can give you something different. It's fine. I have no problem with doing that. And we're you just got to adapt to it. And believe me, I've known, once again, many people who say, no, you don't understand. What I'm doing is blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, you don't understand. I'm paying you. You better do what I'm asking you to do, and it's a job. It's a job, but we love what we do, you roll up the sleeves, and you get to it. That's it.
So that being said, too, I want to take a step back to something you said towards the beginning of the show when you were talking about, I bring things up. We're about to go full circle here. I'm about to blow your mind with where I'm going with this question. So one thing you said in the beginning of the show was how you grew up listening and loving the band Chicago. And now you are performing with the band Chicago. So for you, kind of going that full circle from the boy who listened to music and loved music and wanted to make it a career to now making it a career and doing what you love every single day, but also performing with one of the bands that was one of your favorite brands. How has that been? And how has that kind of, have you stepped back and go, this is really full circle?
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a it still blows me away. Honestly, I've been with the band since 2018. That's 6 years. So whenever I see that logo and I think to I go, damn, I am in that band now, and yes, I'm the youngest of seven. So we had there was music always on, whether my older brothers were playing, 'cause they were musicians as well, two of them, three of them, and my sisters, of course, loved blasting the radio throughout the house growing up. And I would never have access to, there was one record player, that's it, in the house. We're talking the 70s, the mid 70s for me, and mid 70s into the 80s for high school. And to I remember listening to the first album, Chicago's first album, Chicago Transit Authority, and thinking to myself, what the hell is going on here? Why is this? It got inside of me. It's whenever somebody would play it in the house, I would stop what I was doing and just sit in front of the record player and look at the album, just be like, who are these guys? And why is it blowing me away? Why is it making me feel emotions? Why is it making me feel like, and then I was listening to the drummer and just intense creative a, approach to songs, like it just wasn't playing the backbeat. He was changing with the song. And I didn't understand that back then, but as I realized, like, I guess that was the 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 beginning of me becoming a musician, that first album, and then the whole family were Chicago fans, and the friends of my siblings were Chicago fans. So, and here's an interesting story. When I was 9, my brother and my now sister-in-law, they were dating, and they were at the house, my parents' house, and they were. It was about 5 o'clock or whatever. And I remember I was in the house, and I can hear them talking. And my parents said, "What are you guys doing tonight?" My sister-in-law said, "Oh, we're going to a concert at the Greek Theater here in LA. And who are you guys going to go see?" And my brother said, "Chicago." And I stood up, and I was hurt because I wasn't invited, you know. And I was like, "What? You guys are going to go see Chicago? What the hell? Why aren't you taking me?" And well, we only got 2 tickets. Sorry, blah 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 blah. So I literally blocked the door, the entrance the door of the house. And I said, "You can't go." And I was crying. "You taking me? You either can't go or you're either taking me. It's that easy." So they agreed to take me, traded in their 2 tickets, and bought a third one way in the back. And that was my very first concert and I knew that was like, God, this was just so amazing that they're actually, and I was blown away that I was watching them perform live, not listening to them on an album or the radio. Now, fast forward to 2018 when I get the call. I was sitting in my living room here. Phone rings, and I look at it, and all right, cool. It's the drummer. And he said, old friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
We go way, way back, right? And he said, "Hey, man, I need you to come in and blah, 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 sub." And I said, "Well, yeah." And he goes, "In 2 weeks, you got to start learning the music. No rehearsal, no audition. Get up on stage, no sound check, no sound check." That's got to be, I got to tell you, that's got to be the very first time I went on stage like that,
Mm-hmm.
because I've done other artists with no sound check but never to that caliber, right? Or to me, in my mind frame, that caliber, right? And to perform and play, and then the original members were so like embracing me, like, this is amazing. It's like you've always played with us. And I said, "I have, since I was a kid. I've been with you guys, spiritually. I've been there, mentally, physically. I've been there, not physically, but been there." And so then a few weeks later, they asked me to join the band, and believe me, I was in tears, and so for that to be, yeah, full circle, and pretty amazing. And we are busy. We are crazy busy. I mean, we're about to start the 20 about to start this year's schedule, and it goes all the way to the end of the year. So like
And
talk about having to stay in shape.
and how, that brings up the point too of how do you, when you have all these tour dates as well as other projects, how do you make sure you're mentally and physically fit, that you aren't feeling drained, that you aren't feeling run down, or get to a point where you're like, okay, I'm checking out because it is getting too much?
Yeah. Oh, I need a vacation. I need a vacation. But it's the little moments that when you realize, okay, I need to stop. Well,
Mhm.
if I'm on the road and it's crazy busy, I don't leave my hotel room. I will, just order room service and just stay in there, peace and quiet, watching baseball or whatever, and then get to the show and make sure your energy is set. There's uh, you just have to know. You have to know when to stop. When I'm home and I'm in the studio recording, like when we're done today, I have to go into the studio and work on this piano player's music, right? Brian's music, but there's moments of where I mean, when it hits you, I I'm also a very lazy person. So when it hits me, I jump and I go, okay, I'm gonna chill. I'll sit on the couch. I'll answer emails or texts or whatever, and think about what I'm going to have for dinner, what the kids want to eat. But it's just knowing. I think it's knowing when your body or responding to your body properly. Like it's time to rest, or it's time to eat properly. It's time, it's just respond to whatever happens. And mentally, it's like shut off. That's very important too. You have to like when we were on the road and we had 2 days off in Florida and my hotel room was facing the ocean. Our travel agent, she knew exactly what to do. She put us all facing everybody's room facing the ocean because she knew we were going to need those 2 days off of just relaxation. And it was heaven. I remember texting her like, "Oh my God, you're amazing. You know it. You know you had to put." She goes, "Oh yeah," because I know you guys needed that time off. He goes, and that mental break, and it's one of those things too. You don't have to see the band members. You don't have to like
Mhm.
see them every day. There's times you need to be in your room or going for a long walk or and hanging out on your own. And honestly, I'm very cool with being by myself. I'm good with that, or with the dogs, it's fine.
So, one of the last questions I want to ask you before we start to wrap up, and I can't believe it's almost been a full hour because I
I
feel like
know.
the
Wow.
the time's really just flying by.
It
Um,
does.
and we can talk for probably way longer on all these things. But
Agreed. Agreed.
for you, from a personal level, through your music journey, from a kid, it could be from a kid standpoint or professionally, what has been the most rewarding thing for you personally for you playing? When I say that, maybe not for yourself, but through the things you've learned using your instruments, your favorite parts of it. Can you give us some insight on that?
God, I think that's a that's a like okay, now repeat that. Repeat like what are you saying? What are you asking? The enjoyment,
Yeah, for you,
the
what has been the most rewarding part of
reward.
your
Okay.
journey playing personally, not necessarily from a band aspect, but
Okay.
through your journey with instruments and music? What has been the most
Well,
rewarding?
I think it's the reaction of the fans. I think the me and Wally, the drummer of Chicago, we do a pretty lengthy drum solo during the concert. It's like a 5 to 7 minute drum solo, and for the fans to whether they're reacting on social media about it or the VIPs or you run into them before or after the show, and how they just appreciate it, and you realize that they're happy, like they enjoy it, and that comes back to me like, okay, that makes us feel good, and that's a general statement. It's not just me; it's the whole band. If there's moments where people say, "God, the band sounded so good tonight," and I agree. I'm like, well, yeah, they did. Everybody did. Because everybody puts in 110% on stage. There's times where every single band member has, I mean, not at the same time, somebody has been sick,
Mhm.
right? You know, but you don't, you can't call it in. You can't send a sub. You can't, oh, I can't come into work today because I don't feel well. No, you got vitamin C and get on stage. And sometimes that's your best performance. I've been up there with 101 fever, and you're just like, you rest in between songs. Like, okay, here we go again, next one. Yeah. And you deliver, but you deliver because not because you have to, because you want to.
Mhm.
You really want to play these songs. You really want to be, and this is pre-Chicago I'm talking about too, like whether it was Paul Stanley or Stevie Nicks or Christina or even further back with the Backstreet Boys. It's like that there's moments where the excitement of as soon as the lights go down and the crowd hits that level of cheers, and that's like a triple shot of espresso. That's the exciting element of it, and being able to deliver it. Um, Make sure these guys are working fine, playing the drums, no cuts.
Mhm.
That's the thing too, making sure all of that, it's a big picture. It's a big thing. Shoulders don't hurt, So yeah, that's pretty much it, having deliver at 1000% all the time.
And I love how you brought that up as your highlight, as well as the fact. And right before you said this, I was thinking it in my head. And so it was so funny when you said it. You can't call out sick. There's no one else to
No.
fill your spot. So you have to perform. And I think sometimes we all forget, when we're not feeling well, especially at a performance level where there is no one else. If you
Yeah.
call out, individuals who might have paid lots of money, it might have been the thing they've been looking forward to months, years, you never know, they miss out. And what are you supposed to do? Like, you can't
Hmm.
call out. So individuals who aren't in those situations go, well, why can't everyone just call out? I'm not feeling well. What do you expect me to do? But
Yeah.
sometimes, like you said, it ends up creating the best experiences because you push yourself through and you learn
True.
about yourself as well as like, okay, I thought I couldn't do this and I did it well. So I
Yeah.
could probably push farther. Or
Well.
I, I might have not thought about this aspect, but because I had to potentially overthink it because I'm not feeling well and I need to make sure I hit marks. Oh,
Mhm.
this really cool, exciting moment happened too.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what happens too. I mean, in the sports world, you know the same thing. There's a lot of athletes who I was just watching the Dodger game the other night, where the pitcher was doing a great job, and then they had mentioned the next day on an interview that he was sick.
Mhm.
He wasn't feeling well. He had a fever, and it's like you got to perform. You got to just get up there and do it. And if you have a job that allows you to call in sick, good for you. But my job doesn't. My job doesn't allow that. So
Well, thank you, Ray Yslas, for all of your insight today.
you're very welcome, and thank you, thank you. What a lovely time it was today.
It was so lovely. And like I said a few moments ago, I feel like you and I could keep talking for much
Agreed.
longer.
Agreed.
um,
Agreed.
and so this has truly been a joy. And I'm going to mention some of those few key takeaways from today's conversation. But I think so much of what Ray has said today could be key takeaways. I think through your stories, Ray, there were so many little tidbits that if you really listen to what you were saying, you can get out so much from it and apply it to so many different situations. But
Agreed.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to hit a few. So one of them is you have to stay up and keep moving. When you feel like you can't go any farther, keep yourself moving, but also during those moments of opportunity and you think that everything is going well, check your ego. That is one thing that Ray said in the beginning. It's about checking your ego, patting yourself on the back and going, I did that. This was great. Ray mentioned that with the Stevie Nicks situation of like, look what I just did. But I pat myself on the back, kept moving. As well as sometimes you have to take a step back and know someone is not necessarily attacking you personally. There's an end goal and a job that has to be done. And they're just trying to make sure everything works together and get the job done the most effective way. So you can't take everything personally. This is something Ray kind of talked about throughout different stories of going, okay, we have to collaborate. We're here to do a job. We have to collaborate. Let's meet our goals. And knowing that sometimes when someone comes to you and is giving you feedback, they're not trying to knock you down. They're just trying to go, okay, let's figure out what works. And knowing that, so we also realize that, hey, I know what really is important here. And it isn't me. This isn't me. It might just not be, like Ray said, with that artist. They sat there 3 times and said, this isn't working. In reality, it just wasn't working for that individual for the song they were performing. It wasn't that Ray wasn't doing a good job. It just wasn't a fit at that point, and you had to adjust. As well as sometimes ask yourself, why is this making me feel the way this is? And what does this mean to me? Ray brought this up, a perfect example with Chicago, and listening to that music and going, why is this hitting me the way it's hitting me? And why is this making the impact? And that turned out to be a professional music career. Like that, evaluating those moments, and for Ray, evaluating that moment led him to knowing music was his passion and that he was going to make a career for it. And it went really full circle. So sometimes we have to ask ourselves, why is it hitting us? Is there something bigger going on? Is this a purpose and a passion we're supposed to follow? And what might that look like? As well as you have to know when you have stuff going on, how to respond and listen to your body. When we're feeling sick, like Ray had mentioned, it's going, okay, I'm not feeling well or I'm feeling stressed. Listening to your body and going, okay, it's time to take that break. This was a great episode with our top-notch guest, Ray Yslas. Thank you for listening and have a successful day.